Buenas tardes. Guten. It's not Guten Morgen, is it? It's Guten Abend. Good night. Anyway, hello, welcome. Good afternoon. We are going to have another look at the Nobel Peace Prizes. They are horseradish. I've worked it out. The lady, Zane something, really good. She's the Ricky Gervais, like he does to the Oscars, she does it to the Nobels. Bang, bang, bang. She's on it. Every single one of them there knows who's got a real one, who's got a fake one. On those tables, I reckon there's one or two that have proper scientific discovery or economic discovery or just something, right? The economic ones are, look, I've done my homework. They all know that they're horseradish, right? And they actually dig at each other about it. They actually dig at each other about fiction and science fiction and not real and lack of facts. This is a fact. So, they all know, she knows they're all hustling, and she lets them know it. She throws them a few fastballs. Guys, seriously, now that you've been told, you observe. We're going to have a look at this one, all right? I'm going to do this one, and then I'm going to stop and start another one, so it's not too long for me to do loads of reels. Right, here we go, right? This is the one that we listened to yesterday, but now we're going to actually see it. Remember, she knows that they're lies, and we know that they're lies because during solar eclipse, when the sun is directly behind the moon, that can only happen with absolute light. Fact. Right, here we go. Buckle up, Dorothy. About to get bumpy.
One particular aspect of science which really has captured the public imagination, popular imagination, of course, is the world of science fiction. I'll come to the physics laureates because you won your prize for the observation of gravitational waves. It was the first time that a passing gravitational wave has been observed directly on Earth, huge scientific sensation. So, Kip Thorne, why don't you just encapsulate for us what this was all about?
So a black hole is something that every child knows from comic books. But a black hole is a spherical hole in space.
You've got to see the body language there.
One particular aspect of huge scientific sensation. So,
she's great.
Kip Thorne, why don't you just encapsulate for us what this was all about?
So a black hole is something that every child knows from comic books.
Look.
But a black hole is a spherical hole in space that has such intense gravity that nothing can get out, not even light. And what we discovered was that 1.3 billion years ago, in a galaxy far, far away, two black holes circled around and around each other, spiraling together as they emitted these gravitational waves, losing energy to the gravitational waves. The holes came crashing together at half the speed of light, and they created a veritable storm in the shape of space and time. Time slowed down, then sped up, oscillated wildly. If you can imagine time there speeding up.
No, actually, I can't imagine that at all.
And slowing down relative to how time flows here. And that process produced these waves in which space is stretched and squeezed, that traveled across interstellar space, intergalactic space to the Earth, and were captured by or were monitored.
Yeah, he's going, come on, mate, stop it. They're going to find us out.
By the instruments that were built by the experimental team that I'm associated with. This is a whole new way to study the universe, to study aspects of the universe that we've never seen before. It's a way by which we will, in due course, watch the birth of the universe and for the first time really come to understand through a combination of this with theory, the birth of the universe.
Ray and Barry, I mean, what kind of, it's a window on the world, on our universe. What kind of things might we discover about our universe that we don't know now? Barry?
We've worked for decades at developing an instrument, much like we heard the chemists talk about, that's just astounding. I mean, I can't imagine that we could do what we could do, except that we learned very early that you couldn't prove that we couldn't do it, so we kept making steps.
Hear that? Who does that sound like? So many people. You couldn't prove that we couldn't do it.
And as I think Ray said earlier, people keep asking us, how could we stay at this so long? Persistence. No, it was really a lot of fun, because we've
Look at them.
broken new ground all the time, much as you have, without maybe making a discovery, but just experimentally go further than people have before.
Black holes, of course, really are very much the stuff of science fiction films. Kip Thorne, you are scientific advisor and executive producer of one such film, Interstellar. How important is it for you, do you think, that...
So the guy who directed the movie Interstellar is front and center for gravitational waves. Are you kidding me right now?
science fiction should actually be based on fact?
There's no necessity. There are different genres of science fiction. And my partner in Hollywood, Linda Obst, who together with me wrote the treatment from which Interstellar sprang, she calls this science faction. I contrast with science fantasy. Harry Potter is science fantasy, Interstellar is science faction. But the beauty of this for me is that a film like this, where the science is embedded in right from the beginning,
where the questionable science is embedded from the very beginning.
it's capable of inspiring people about science. How else could I, as a professor, succeed in providing some inspiration for 100 million people, except through a blockbuster film like this?
One particular thing that a lot of people sort of like to know about in science fiction and so on is, are there other universes out there, parallel universes? I mean, could your work in any way help us discover whether there are indeed other universes? Barry?
Well, it might. There's different, if we had an easy and straightforward test to see if there was, this idea was right, we'd probably be going after it. There's various ways that we might get clues whether it's right, and some of them are through the kind of work we're doing. It's not very direct. It's one of the ideas that kind of springs from what we don't know about the early universe.
So, discussing here, the success of films like Interstellar and science fiction, two contradictions there, you might say. I mean, how important, sort of just thinking about this issue in general terms, do you think that evidence-based discourse is in our societies today? Let me get a view from all of you on this particular issue. Perhaps you first, Jeff Hall.
People don't know much about science and technology. Electricity, miracle, for example, day-to-day things that never existed centuries ago and now are taken for granted. The proper American in the United States is not only ignorant, but is actively, belligerently, pugnaciously ignorant.
And I say, I refuse. Go away, you secular humanist.
Okay.
Or
So, who
Could we get him another scotch, please?
thinks that there are these irrational influences and that you all seek the triumph of reason in the face of all this? Michael Rosbash?
This is interesting.
A lot of this has to do with educational landscape. We've seen circumstances, most starkly in the U.S., but in Western Europe as well, where politicians, ambitious people, take advantage of the situation to exploit for their...
whoever controls the children controls the future.
Own benefit for power,
Lies.
gain of power. It's not something that's unprecedented. It happened in the 20th century to disastrous ends, and so it's a very worrisome concept.
Mike Young?
You can have an attitude that you're not interested in science and you can't benefit from science. These wouldn't exist if there hadn't been
Here we
discoveries
go.
50 years ago that invented the technologies. Just about every minute of the day, everyone depends on some form.
Now listen, this reminds me of all of those people, the stupid comments, right, that I've had to endure on this journey. Comments like, oh, this guy, look at this guy, doesn't believe in science, but he's writing on a computer and he's using his mobile phone to take photographs and videos and he's doing this. That is not the kind of science we're talking about, okay? We're talking about gravitational waves that are traveling at 299,792 kilometers per second. And that cannot be, can it? Because during a solar eclipse, right, when the sun is behind the moon, it can only play out like that with absolute light. It's obvious. These are lies. You've just heard.
Form of technology. So the notion that it's over, or we have enough, or
it never happened.
Or it never happened. That this is brand new and created from whole cloth is such an incredible mistake.
Richard Thaler?
We have a fact-free administration in the United States.
Bang! Right? Would you like to hear that one more time?
Is such an incredible mistake.
Richard Thaler?
These are the facts.
We have a fact-free administration in the United States. Worrying about science, it would be nice if there were scientists in the administration.
Did you hear this? Now, how many times have you heard me say? Oh, look, I'm not even going to say it. People have started to realise that if anything starts with scientists have discovered, everybody believes it.
Would settle for some people who are collecting facts.
Right, but Barry, it's interesting. I mean, you know, we've heard anti-science bias from Jeff Hall, for instance, but your LIGO project for the observation of these gravitational waves, do you think that kind of support would happen today?
For something like we did?
Yeah.
Well, I'm worried not. You can't do science and move forward without taking risks, yet we have a system that's become more and more conservative. I personally, knowing the funding situation pretty well in the US through the National Science Foundation, don't believe that right now you could fund something that was equivalent.
We as scientists
Why? Because they cottoned on to the horseradish. That's why.
Have a job. It's not just that we have a job to make what we do more intelligible to people. I think that's why, I mean, Kip's movie is an important thing. I think you also have to go and talk to people who are not at college levels. You have to talk to high school kids and grade school kids.
Yeah.
Now, did you hear this? Did you hear what he said? You don't want to be talking to college people because they're too old. You want to be talking to kids, children. He who controls the children controls the future. It's all right here. It's all right here.
I agree completely with Ray on this. But I think the one key aspect I'd like to emphasize is the importance that the general public, that the majority of the populace, in a democracy particularly, understands how science works, understands its powers, its limitations.
No, they don't.
Jacques Bochet?
The remark by Mr. Ishiguro that it would be easy to develop and make great a story about zombies coming on us.
It gets a little bit. See what are we on? We're on 14. Oh, right. Look. Let's just add this real quick while we're here. Right. I need. No, but oh yeah, there we go. Where is it? There we go.
Introductions.
Got to play it. Go play it again and again and again. A month old, this is.
We are going to talk about a question that has really occupied the minds of so many individuals in so many disciplines. What makes us human? What does it mean to be human? And Rich, I'm going to start with you. You know, as a biologist, you know, what does it take?
Lock 'em up!
Well, I think if we look back at our origins coming out of Africa, clearly there were animals living there that were not human. Okay? They're apes, various gorillas, all sorts of things. And so I think one of the things that really differentiates us from the bulk of the animal kingdom is the brain, and the way in which the brain dominates our lives, allows us to do things often that we shouldn't do, but nevertheless gives us some feelings for the rest of society, for what we might do to control them, to help them, or whatever. And I think this is something that is distinctly human, as opposed to for what we might do to control them, to help them, or whatever.
Control them, help them, whatever.
Gives us some feelings for the rest of society, for what we might do to control them, to help them, or whatever. And I think this is something that is distinctly human, as opposed to...
All right, I will be back with the other one. Nice, I'm telling you, all of it, it's staged. It's staged. Half of them are absurdities. Anything that says the light travels at 299792458 is caca. It has to be. Alright, I'll be back. Oh, God, I'm going to need a holiday after this.